Let's take a look at how memories get consolidated. Consolidation refers to how the brain forms these permanent representations of our experiences, of knowledge, and so on. And we can see that it's divided up into short-term, or also known as working memory. So our ability to keep something in mind temporarily, that would be an example of short-term or working memory. Long-term memory, lasting hours to months, and then long-lasting memory that can last from months through the lifetime. And so each of these types of memory durations involves different processes, and we're learning also involves different areas of the brain. So the hippocampus, shown here in red, is typically involved at the time of learning, as well as when we're recalling information so that we can keep it in mind. So it's very closely linked to our storage of memory, in other words, the process of consolidation, as well as the process of retrieval. Retrieval involves accessing those stored memories. We know now that glutamate is necessary for this. It's involved in actually both the consolidation and the retrieval process. And the more we're learning is that the consolidation and retrieval processes are really kind of similar. And so blocking glutamate receptors prevents consolidation as well as retrieval. Successful retrieval involves the hippocampus, but long-term memories are not stored in the hippocampus. The hippocampus's job is just to retrieve them, to find them and bring them out and put them into working memory. The prefrontal cortex, right, involved in goals, decision making, and planning, well, it directs the search strategy for retrieval in the hippocampus. So it's definitely in charge of making the hippocampus retrieve whatever information you're looking for. Where are memories stored? This has been a question that has had researchers wondering for quite a while. Memories for sounds activate auditory processing areas. Memories for pictures activate the occipital lobe, where the visual cortex is. Recognition of tools involves activity in the motor cortex and an area in the left temporal lobe that is also activated by motion and action words. And spatial memories appear to be stored in the parietal cortex. So what we're seeing here is that memories are stored in the areas of the brain that are normally involved when we are experiencing that thing or that process. So when we're experiencing sound, we're using auditory processing, and lo and behold, that's the area that we use in remembering sounds, like a song, for example. Here we're seeing Fmri scans of the brain during perception and recall. So perception here on the left, recall here on the right, and we're seeing that there is overlap, right? So if the person was looking at pictures, it used their occipital lobe, and if they were remembering those pictures, it also used the occipital lobe. Same thing here with sounds, using that temporal lobe and the auditory cortex. A very similar pattern here with recall. Memory for place uses these neurons in the hippocampus called place cells. Place cells increase their firing when you're in a particular place. And so if you're in your room and you're looking at the door, for example, or you're looking out the window, it's going to fire. And if you turn and then face the closet, it's different place cell is going to fire. So collectively, these place cells form a spatial map of your environment. They are dependent on environmental cues, though. So remember, I mentioned the window and the door and the closet. Those are the kinds of environmental cues you would find in a small room. And in an outdoor environment, there'll be obviously larger landmarks like buildings or mountains and so on. And so these have been studied quite a bit in rodent models, but also in humans and non-human primates. Now, HM, despite his impairments in declarative memory and in episodic memories, he had intact non-declarative memory. And so this brings us to the point that there is not one type of memory, but really a variety of different kinds of memories. And so he was actually able to perform and get better on something called the mirror drawing task, where the individual is asked to trace an outline of a star, but they're looking at the star through a mirror. And because the mirror reverses the spatial layout, this is actually a really tough task. And he had no recall of having done the task before, having seen the star or seen the mirror or anything like that, or even for that matter, the person who was showing them how to do it. He had none of that recollection. And yet, he performed better on it as he practiced. And so this is 1 day's practice, and you can see him getting much better. By day 2, he's doing much better. And then by day 3, he's like a champ at it. And then he kind of says, wow, he's really surprised that he's good at that. And he says he must have, some kind of talent for it, because he has absolutely no recall that he's been doing it for 3 days at this point. So HM showed perfectly normal mirror drawing ability. And he also learned to solve what's called the Tower of Hanoi problem, where you have to move these rings from this cylinder to another one at a time, and rearrange them the same way, without ever placing a larger ring over a smaller one. So there is a solution to this. It seems kind of challenging when I first think about it, but there is a solution. He was able to learn how to do it very well, just like the mirror drawing task. And again, he had no recall of ever having seen these objects before or done them before or anything like that, but he did improve. And so we can see that his non-declarative memory certainly got better.